When everything around you seems to collapse and fear grips your mind like chains, remember the words of Napoleon Hill, who taught that fear is nothing more than a state of mind, and every state of mind can be controlled, directed, and transformed. To become fearless when all else fails, you must first accept that fear is born out of uncertainty, and uncertainty fades when you take decisive action. Hill believed that failure carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit, meaning that every setback is not an end, but a beginning if you choose to see it that way. When others surrender to doubt, you must cultivate faith in yourself, for faith is the antidote to fear. He urged us to build the habit of persistence, because persistence breeds courage, and courage destroys hesitation. In the darkest moments, shift your thoughts from what you fear to what you desire most, for the dominating thoughts of your mind will always attract their physical equivalent. Train your mind daily with affirmations of strength. Surround yourself with those who uplift your spirit, and take bold steps even if your hands shake, because action dissolves fear faster than anything else. Becoming fearless does not mean you never feel afraid. It means you choose to move forward despite the fear, armed with faith, persistence, and a burning desire to rise above. Napoleon Hill's message is clear. When all else fails, you do not fail unless you quit. And as long as you keep moving forward, fear will have no power over you. Fear loses its power the moment you decide to face it head-on. And Napoleon Hill reminds us that the only limits we truly have are the ones we set in our own minds. When all else fails, you must dig deep into the reservoir of your inner strength and remind yourself that fear is temporary, but the regret of not acting lasts forever. Hill taught that the greatest achievers in history were not those who lived without fear, but those who mastered it by replacing it with faith, clarity of purpose, and relentless determination. To become fearless, you must reprogram your thoughts, because thoughts are things, and what you constantly think about shapes your reality. Every time fear whispers doubt, answer it with the voice of confidence, and declare to yourself that you are stronger than the challenge before you. Hill said that every adversity carries within it a hidden opportunity, and fear is often the doorway to that opportunity, if only you dare to walk through. Surround yourself with courage by focusing on your definite purpose in life, and let that purpose be stronger than any obstacle in your way. When you act with purpose, fear begins to dissolve, because the mind cannot hold both fear and faith at the same time. One must always drive the other out. To become fearless when everything seems broken, shift your focus from what you might lose to what you are destined to gain, and let your burning desire push you past hesitation into action. Hill believed that the man who conquers himself is greater than the man who conquers 1,000 battles, for true fearlessness is born within. When all else fails, rise with the unshakable belief that nothing can defeat a mind armed with persistence, discipline, and an unwavering will to win. When fear stands tall before you and every path seems blocked, Napoleon Hill teaches that you must stand even taller, for fear is powerless against a mind fortified with determination. The greatest victories of life are born in moments when everything seems lost, yet you refuse to surrender. Fear thrives in hesitation, but courage is built in motion. So take the step you fear the most, and watch how the universe clears the way for you. Hill declared that success always begins with a burning desire, and desire is the fuel that transforms trembling into triumph. To be fearless when all else fails, you must silence the inner critic and awaken the voice of faith, reminding yourself that every defeat carries with it the lesson needed for a greater comeback. Fear fades the moment you embrace failure as a teacher rather than a punishment. The mind has the extraordinary power to create its reality, and Hill insisted that what you hold in your thoughts with passion and persistence will eventually appear in your life. So choose to hold courage, vision, and determination. When fear whispers, stop, let your persistence roar continue. When doubt says you can't, let faith declare you will. True fearlessness is not about escaping fear, but mastering it, bending it into fuel that propels you forward. Hill's wisdom echoes across time. Every person who ever rose from nothing, every person who ever defied the odds, became fearless by clinging to purpose when the world told them to quit. So when all else fails, stand firm, breathe deeply, and remind yourself that fear is only a shadow. It cannot withstand the light of a determined spirit. Fear only survives in the absence of belief, and Napoleon Hill reminds us that belief is the starting point of all achievement. When all else fails, belief is the shield that protects you from despair and the sword that cuts through uncertainty. Fear feeds on weakness, but weakness disappears when you commit to action with unwavering persistence. Hill taught that the human mind becomes what it continuously feeds upon, so if you fill your thoughts with fear, you will stumble. But if you saturate your mind with faith, courage, and purpose, you will rise. To become fearless, you must train yourself to see beyond temporary defeat, recognizing that every obstacle is a stepping stone, not a wall. Fear often appears largest right before a breakthrough, and those who press on through the storm discover the calm on the other side. Hill believed that no man is ever truly defeated until he accepts defeat in his own mind. So long as you refuse to give fear a home in your thoughts, you remain unconquered. Remember that every act of courage, no matter how small, strengthens your spirit, and over time, courage becomes your natural state. Fear is an illusion that collapses when confronted with decision, determination, and desire. When all else fails, cling to the vision of the life you are striving for. Let it dominate your thoughts so completely that fear has no space to breathe. Hill's message is timeless. Mastery over fear begins with mastery over your mind. And once you master your mind, nothing, no failure, no obstacle, no setback can ever defeat you. When all else fails and fear presses against your heart like a heavy weight, Napoleon Hill urges you to remember that fear is a choice, not a destiny. It is a state of mind that can be reshaped, redirected, and destroyed the moment you decide to focus on faith instead of doubt. Hill taught that fear thrives on inaction, but every single act of courage, no matter how small, weakens its grip until it dissolves entirely. The key to becoming fearless lies in controlling your thoughts. For what the mind continuously dwells upon, it will attract into reality. If you think defeat, you will invite defeat. But if you think victory with burning desire, persistence, and unwavering belief, then nothing in the world can hold you back. To be fearless is not to avoid failure, but to embrace it as a stepping stone, knowing that within every setback lies a seed of equal or greater opportunity. Hill's wisdom tells us that courage grows when you act despite trembling, and every time you face what frightens you, fear shrinks until it vanishes. When all else fails, hold tightly to your definite purpose in life, for purpose ignites strength, and strength destroys hesitation. Fear cannot coexist with a determined spirit that refuses to quit. Hill reminds us that no obstacle is greater than the power of a mind fixed on its vision. No failure is final unless you accept it, and no fear is permanent when you walk boldly through it. True fearlessness comes when you realize that the only enemy that can defeat you lives within your mind, and once you conquer it, the world itself bows to your persistence, faith, and determination. When all else fails and fear becomes the loudest voice in your mind, Napoleon Hill reminds us that fear is nothing more than a state of mind, and because it is a state of mind, you hold the power to master it. Life often places us in situations where defeat seems certain, where the path ahead is dark, and where our spirit trembles under the weight of uncertainty. It is in those very moments that fear grows strongest, feeding on hesitation, self-doubt, and the belief that we are powerless. But Hill taught that no one is ever truly powerless. For the mind is the greatest force in existence, and whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. To become fearless when everything around you crumbles, you must first understand that fear is an illusion created by your own thoughts, and illusions vanish when confronted by the clarity of purpose and the fire of persistence. Fear cannot survive when you decide to act, because every step forward, no matter how uncertain, chips away at the chains that hold you back. Hill insisted that within every defeat lies the seed of an equal or greater success, and it is your responsibility to search for that seed, even in the darkest of nights. Fearlessness is not about never feeling afraid. It is about refusing to let fear dictate your actions. When the world tells you to quit, when your circumstances scream that you are finished, remind yourself that true defeat only exists when you accept it in your mind. So long as you refuse to quit, fear cannot win. The way to become fearless is to direct your thoughts away from failure and toward your burning desire, to hold that desire so clearly in your imagination that it overpowers every whisper of doubt. Hill believed that the dominating thoughts of your mind become reality. And if you dominate your mind with courage, determination, and faith, then those qualities will shape your destiny. Even when all else fails, you must refuse to surrender your vision, because vision is stronger than fear, purpose is stronger than pain, and persistence is stronger than failure. Train your mind daily with affirmations of strength. Remind yourself that you were not born to be a victim of fear, but a master of it. And surround yourself with influences that fuel courage rather than weakness. Each act of persistence builds courage. Each courageous choice builds strength. And each moment of strength pushes fear further into the shadows. Hill's timeless message is that fear loses its grip the moment you choose to fight. Back with faith, with purpose, and with an unbreakable will. When all else fails, you do not fail unless you quit. And as long as you rise each time you fall, as long as you move forward even with shaking hands, you are already living fearlessly. True power belongs to the one who refuses to let fear dictate their destiny. And that power, Napoleon Hill assures us, already lives inside you waiting to be awakened.